Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome to my channel. If you're joining me for the first time, I read a lot of horror, but really I dabble in anything that is dark and spooky. So if you're into that, welcome to the party. I am here today with the books that I've read in the first half of August. Really just a couple this time. This is probably the least amount of books I've read in quite a while. I have been playing a lot of video games, which explains why I've not been reading as much. Also, I read a really fucking long book, and like the first book I picked up this month really wasn't, it was just like, it's sometimes just been a struggle for me so far this month. I really should have put at least one of these books down at some point. Okay, so let's get into my stats so far this month. In total, I read 4 books. 2 of these were off of my TBR, so those are books that I owned previous to this year. I read 1,511 pages, which is about 100 pages per day. I read 2 horror books and 2, I don't know, I guess like, they're both kind of hard to, the other 2 are probably both fantasy books, but they're both also very hard to set in one genre, I feel like. The oldest book I read came out in 2015, so I read a lot of very like recent releases, and then the most recent released book I read was a new release which came out in 2024. I also like to keep track of the series I'm reading, so 2 of these books this month were books that started series, and they're both series that I will not be continuing on with. So there's that. This is going to be hopefully a very short wrap up. Let's start today with The Library of Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. This is a book that I pulled out of my TBR jar this month, and it's one that I've had for a very long time. I think I might have won it in a giveaway or something where the publisher gave it to me, but it wasn't like a direct, like I have another book here from Saga Press, which was like directly Saga gave me this book, but this, it must have been like a giveaway or something like that. And so I've had it like since it was released in 2015. It's a long fucking time. And I've never picked it up. That's kind of a bummer because it was a really interesting book, and it's really hard to tell you exactly what it's about. Very basically, because there is so much shit going on in this story. There is this hidden library in this secret neighborhood, and there are, I believe, 12 people who are there as librarians, and they've been there since they were children, and they each study their own catalog in the library in it. And the man who I guess runs this library is kind of a god, and he has powers, and really all of these librarians have powers according to their library catalog. There is one who studies war, and one who studies medicine, and one who studies languages and speech. And then of course they call him Father. Their father, the man who runs it all, of course has all the knowledges in all these catalogs, but he really doesn't want any one of the librarians studying outside of their catalogs because he's fearful that it will make them too powerful. And at the beginning of this book, Father is missing, and the librarians don't know where he's gone. And they also can't get into the library. There is something preventing them from getting into the library. And you really, like, are just, you're thrown into this, and you don't know what the fuck is going on. You don't know who these people are. They're strange. It was really interesting to watch a story unfold because it was really bonkers, honestly. It was at times very action-packed. I mean, a lot of this, I feel like, was action-packed. But there was, like, also some almost, like, philosophical stuff reflecting on, like, humanity, and I don't know, it was very, very interesting. So I would say that this is maybe a fantasy book, but it really is more than that. I wouldn't say it was quite a 5-star read for me, but that's just me. And I will also say that I've never ever read a book like this before. It is such a really impossible idea and told really well. There were times where I was like, okay, you know, this could really pick up the pace. But yeah, this was really very strange and very interesting. Next, I would like to tell you about All These Subtle Deceits by C.S. Humble. This is a possession horror story that came out in 2022. And I am definitely in the minority here. It seems like I have heard a lot of glowing reviews about this, and I just didn't understand the hype, I guess. Unfortunately, I really wanted to like it. It's got such a great cover. I don't know. Okay, so this starts out, and we're following a character named Lauren, who's just moved to a town in Colorado. And she's at a nightclub, and she like experiences this like psychic demonic attack. There are like these 3 entities, and they attack her. And after that happens, she just keeps seeing them, and these attacks keep happening, and it's ruining her life, basically. So eventually she is told to go see this, like, defrocked exorcist. Is that what they call it when a priest has his frock taken away? I don't know. He is an ex-priest who is an exorcist, and he's kind of got a special way of exorcising that the church doesn't agree with, which is why he is an ex-priest. And Lauren feels like this is her only way out of this. So, I mean, that's really what this book is about. Lauren is possessed. She needs help getting rid of whatever is harming her. And then there's this priest, William, who is unconventional, and he is gonna help her at any cost. So yeah, I just, with this, when I first picked this up, I was really into it. I felt like the beginning part with Lauren was like really intense with her in the nightclub. I felt like you at first got such a really good feel for who she was as a character. And then after this attack happened, it was like she just wasn't quite as important anymore as the priest was, and I didn't really care for the priest character, which might be one of the biggest problems for me, is that I didn't really care for any of the characters, and I felt like there was just so much discussion about what to do, so much like shuttling around from here to there, which is something that just really irritates me. I hear myself, you know, talking about this when I review books on my channel. It's something that comes up again that I know. It's like, oh yeah, this is something that I hate in books, when there's just like too much moving around and not enough fucking doing shit about it. You know what I mean? Too much talking about it or stuff like that, and just not enough action in taking care of the problem. And this book isn't very long. You know, less than 200 pages, 150 pages maybe, 170 pages. And I just ultimately became bored to the point where I should have put it down because I wanted to skim it. And I really should have put it down. And I don't know why I didn't. I should have just DNF'd it. But yeah, really disappointing for me. But I know a lot of people really loved it. It's got like really great, it's got a great rating on Goodreads, comparative to, of course, it's an indie book. It doesn't have like millions of ratings, but the ratings that it does have are great. Except for a few, which include mine, unfortunately. I didn't understand the hype, I guess. Okay, now a book I got from the publisher, Saga Press. Thank you, Saga Press. This is The Will of the Many by James Islington, and I believe there is a sequel coming out soon. Never mind, it's next year, apparently, 2025, called The Strength of the Few. This is a gigantic book, and this is a very expansive and creative world, really inspired by Roman stuff, Roman culture, Roman architecture, things like that. And in this we're following a teenager named Vis, who, it's like he's a double agenting. It's, that part of it is kind of interesting, because he's in a, I don't know, country, I guess, that have been invaded by the Catalan Republic. His family's been killed. He's an orphan. And then he is adopted. And his adoptive father wants him to also go undercover, not knowing that he's already like trying to hide that he's not Catinian. I don't know what these people are supposed to be called. He gets adopted. He's hiding his identity from his adopted father, and then his adopted father wants him to go to this military academy to see if they have any secrets there. And so he has to hide what he's doing at this military academy in order to, you know, mouse around for any secrets they might be hiding. So it's very sneaky, secretive. But luckily, Vis is very good at this. So of course, in these novels, there's also a rebellion type of sect of people in the military academy. That part I did like for the most part. It was very fast-paced. It was interesting to read about what they're learning. The way that they move up in through the academy ranks is much different than like a year 1, a year 2, a year 3 kind of a thing. It's more of, well, I'll let you figure it out if you read it yourself. It's just different, and it's very fast-paced and cutthroat because you're not just moving up each year. You really have to be at the top of the game. The top of your game, the top of the game. Yeah, like this has a lot writing on this, of course. So he has to see if this school has any secrets, because if he does not, there might be consequences for him with his adoptive father. All, of course, while he is harboring a hatred for, a secret hatred, of course it has to be, for this republic that's taken over his homeland anyway. This has really high praise, and I can see why. Like I was saying, very immersive, and I think that this is just not my cup of tea. Like, this is probably not something I will continue on with, but this is definitely for many people. This book, I can see why people liked it. At the end, there is something that will blow your socks off if you read this book. I don't know, and even now thinking about it, I do feel kind of wishy-washy about will I continue on? I do kind of want to know what's going to happen. So I don't know. Only time will tell, I guess, whether I'll pick up the sequel or not. So I guess I liked it. I'm intrigued enough to maybe, perhaps, continue on. But I will say that, like, reading it itself is not enough to make me want to pick up the sequel, but many people like this. Many. I mean, talk about a book with many ratings on a site like Goodreads. Many ratings, and it still has like a 4 point something star rating, which, like, there's just not very many books out there like that. Anyway, on to my last read here. We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer. This was a new release. This came out in 2024. This is one of my most anticipated releases. I'm kind of bummed. I ordered this copy with a gift card I had from Barnes & Noble, and the dust jacket came all fucking split. And it was just like, I looked into possibly returning it, but it seemed like too much of a hassle. It's like bent and I don't know. It has character. Anyway, this is a book about Eve, who recently moved into this very old house with her partner Charlie. They plan on flipping the house and selling it. It's kind of secluded on more of a maybe like a mountain area in Oregon. I think it's Oregon. And right in the very beginning of the book, Eve is home alone and she gets a knock on the door, and it's this family. And the husband says, "Hey, I used to live here. Is it okay if I come and look around just for a couple minutes?" And Eve's first reaction is to be like, "No, I don't want you to do that. This is weird. I don't like this." But she's been kind of programmed, like a lot of us, to be a people pleaser. So she says, "Okay, just like 15 minutes. And this turns into longer than 15 minutes. I don't even know how to fucking tell you what happens in this book. It just gets stranger and stranger as you go on. But it really all stems from Eve innocently letting this family look around her house. The dad is like, "Oh, this is where this happened," and "Oh, well, would you look at this? This is where this happened." But it's all just a little bit strange. Like, something about this family doesn't feel quite right. And Eve gets a strange feeling from them, even though, like, outwardly they're mostly very nice. And I don't know, this is like kind of one of those books where you finish it and you go, "What the fuck?" And you know immediately you're going to have to reread it. There's just like things in the text where you're like, is this trying to tell me something? Like, it feels like House of Leaves light. And I haven't finished House of Leaves, but like, you know what I mean? It might have messages in the text, I think. So like, this was really good. There was like some very creepy stuff in here. Stuff that I think if I had been reading it like in the right place at the right time would have been like very fucking creepy. Like, I think I told you guys about reading Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman at night, and like I had to look behind me to check like the corner of my bedroom because I just got like this very creepy feeling. This, like, if I had been reading that at that time, it very well could have been like the same situation. But I think that because this messes with things the way it does, and it introduces some ideas and then it just never goes back to them, which was very frustrating for me, because I don't think that you should have, like, listen, if there's like one small loose end and you're like, "Oh, well, they didn't ever go back to Aunt May's for their whatever," right? It's like, okay, that can be forgiven. But when there's like things that the author seems to stress and then it never gets brought up again, that really bothers me. And it's like, why do that? And there's a couple of things like this in here which I can't get into because it would be spoiler territory for sure, but it's just so bothersome. Like, Why did this happen to me? So I feel like I want to give this book a really high rating, but at the same time, I feel like I wish the author would fix these things for me, please, because it is bothering me. Fix these things, Marcus. And also, apparently this is supposed to be a movie soon. I heard that this was bought, the rights to this was bought before the book was even published. So I think that this could make a great film. So, I think this is probably just as long as any of my other fucking wrap-ups because I love to ramble. Anyway, that is what I read in the first half of the month. Thank you for sticking with me. There will be more things to come in the second half of the month if you stay tuned. As always, check out my link tree for things like my affiliate links. There's one for Book of the Month, one for Libro FM, which is a audiobook subscription service. Those both give me kickbacks, obviously. I have a link for my Pango shop, my social media accounts, all that stuff. That's where you'll find that. So check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, I will see you guys later. Goodbye.